47 of Prima Secunda is the penultimate question of the Treatise on the Passions, and we continue with the Passion of Anger, which is the last of the Irascible Passions. And also, as I mentioned yesterday, it's the one that doesn't have an opposite, opposing passion. It's very unique in that regard, and it's one of the irascibles. And so this is the cause and remedy of anger. The official title of this question is of the cause that provokes anger and of the remedies of anger. 4 articles in this question, so we will get right to it. Article 1 says, whether the motive of anger is always something done against the one who is angry. And when I first read this, I thought, well, it's not always something that's done to me that makes me angry. Something could be done to one of my kids or my wife or somebody I love or, what have you. Or it could be something done to my house or somebody vandalizes the house. So I was a little surprised by Thomas's answer here because he does come down saying, yeah, anger is always because of something that happens to me. At least that's how I read it. It's a short corpus. He says, anger is the desire to hurt another for the purpose of just vengeance. So there's a good, working short definition of anger. Now, unless some injury has been done, there is no question of vengeance, nor does any injury provoke one to vengeance, but only that which is done to the person who seeks vengeance. For just as everything naturally seeks its own good, so does it naturally repel its own evil. But injury done by anyone does not affect a man unless it in some way be something done against him. So consequently, the motive of a man's anger is always something done against him. So I would have to think maybe if we read the objections and the responses to the objections, he takes this on. But I guess indirectly, if somebody hurts somebody that you love, it's ultimately an offense against you as an individual. That's what I'm guessing he's going to say. Article 2, whether the sole motive of anger is slight or contempt. He says all the causes of anger are reduced to slight. For slight is of 3 kinds: contempt, despiteful treatment, that is, hindering one from doing one's will, and insolence. And all motives of anger are reduced to these 3. 2 reasons may be assigned to this. First, because anger seeks another's hurt as being a means of just vengeance, wherefore it seeks vengeance in so far as it seems just. Now, just vengeance is taken only for that which is done unjustly. And again, he's still only talking about something that's done to the person directly. It's not something that happens to somebody that you love. Hence, that which provokes anger is always something considered in the light of an injustice. Wherefore, the philosopher says that men are not angry if they think they have wronged someone and are suffering justly on that account, because there is no anger at what is just. Now that's an interesting quote, isn't it? There's no anger at what is just. There's only anger when you feel like there's an injustice and that vengeance needs to be carried out. Now, injury is done to another in 3 ways, namely through ignorance, through passion, and through choice. Then, most of all, a man does an injustice when he does an injury from choice, on purpose, or with deliberate malice, as stated in Ethics 5:8. Wherefore, we are most of all angry with those who, in our opinion, have hurt us on purpose. For if we think that someone has done us an injury through ignorance or through passion, either we are not angry with them at all, or very much less, since to do something through ignorance or through passion takes away from the notion of injury and, to a certain extent, calls for mercy and forgiveness. Those, on the other hand, who do an injury on purpose seem to sin from contempt, wherefore we are angry with them most of all. Hence, the philosopher says that we are either not angry at all or not very angry with those who have acted through anger because they do not seem to have acted slightly. Okay, so if they're acting out of passion, if they're acting out of ignorance, or they're acting out of anger, okay, then we tend to give them more of a pass because their emotions have gotten out of control. The second reason is because a slight is opposed to a man's excellence, because men think little of things that are not worth much ado. Now we seek for some kind of excellence from all our goods. Consequently, whatever injury is inflicted upon us, insofar as it is derogatory to our excellence, seems to savor of a slight, which is interesting because the very next article says whether man's excellence is the cause of his being angry. So he's already kind of hinted at that in the previous article. The cause of anger is the man who is angry. In the man who is angry may be taken in two ways. First, in respect of the motive of anger, and thus excellence is the cause of a man being easily angered. Because the motive of anger is an unjust slight, as stated above. Now it is evident that the more excellent a man is, the more unjust is a slight offered him in the manner in which he excels. Consequently, those who excel in any matter are most of all angry if they be slighted in that matter. For instance, a wealthy man in his riches, or an orator in his eloquence, and so forth. So when somebody's excellent in something, that's the thing that they're most touchy about, and that's the thing that if they feel slighted, they're going to get the most angry. Secondly, the cause of anger in the man who is angry may be considered on the part of the disposition produced in him by the motive aforesaid. Now it is evident that nothing moves a man to anger except a hurt that grieves him, while whatever savors of defect above all is a cause of grief, since men who suffer from some defect are more easily hurt. And this is why men who are weak or subject to some other defect are more easily angered, since they are more easily grieved. I don't know that that's been my experience, that the weaker people get angry more. It seems to take away from the fact of what he said in the previous article about the more excellent somebody is, that's what they get angry about. And so weakness and excellence don't seem to go hand in hand. So these articles are a little bit interesting to me, let's just say. Whether a person's defect is a reason for being more easily angry with him. Okay, so if somebody is weak or defected, do we get more angry at them? He says, unmerited contempt more than anything else is a provocative of anger. Consequently, deficiency or littleness in the person with whom we are angry tends to increase our anger, insofar as it adds to the unmeritedness of being despised. For just as the higher a man's position is, the more undeservedly he is despised, so the lower he is, the less reason he has for despising. Thus a nobleman is angry if he is insulted by a peasant, a wise man if by a fool, a master if by a servant. Okay, so if the person is lowly, then we're more angry if there's a slight or an offense by them. Okay, last paragraph. If, however, the littleness or deficiency lessens the unmerited contempt, then it does not increase but lessens anger. In this way, those who repent of their ill deeds and confess that they have done wrong, who humble themselves and ask pardon, mitigate anger, according to Proverbs 15:1. A mild answer breaketh wrath, because to wit they seem not to despise, but rather to think much of those before whom they humble themselves. All right, so that's our question 47, prima secunda. We only have one more question in this treatise, and then we're going to move into the treatise on the habits and the virtues as we continue rolling through prima secunda of the Summa Theologica. Thanks for joining me. God bless you.